Have you ever felt like a fraud, despite your accomplishments, constantly worrying about being exposed as an imposter? This feeling, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call imposter syndrome. It's a psychological phenomenon where people are unable to internalize their achievements, always fearing that they will be unmasked as a fraud. Interestingly, imposter syndrome is not an official disorder listed in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. It's more of a shared experience, a common thread weaving through the tapestry of human psychology. It's a feeling that creeps into the minds of many, sowing seeds of doubt and fear, often undermining their confidence and self-esteem. Imposter syndrome is a fascinating enigma, as it doesn't discriminate among its victims. It can affect anyone, irrespective of their level of success. From the high school student who excels in academics to the CEO of a successful company, anyone can fall prey to this psychological phenomenon. It's like a shadow that follows you, subtly whispering in your ear that you're not good enough, that you're simply playing a part, and soon everyone will know. Imposter syndrome is not just a benign self-doubt. It can have significant effects on one's life, both personally and professionally. It can lead to chronic stress, anxiety, and even depression. It can also hinder your career progression, as you may shy away from opportunities, fearing exposure. Some of the best-selling books, like The Secret Thoughts of Successful Women by Valerie Young and The Imposter Phenomenon by Pauline Rose Clance, explore this phenomenon profoundly, providing real-life examples and insights from psychological researches. So, the question arises, if you're successful, why do you feel like an imposter? The answer to this riddle lies deep within our psyche, influenced by a multitude of factors such as our upbringing, societal expectations, and personal experiences. But don't worry, as we journey through this video, we will delve deeper into this enigma, breaking down its causes, its manifestations, and most importantly, how you can overcome it. So, stay tuned as we unravel the mystery of imposter syndrome. To understand the imposter syndrome, let's delve into the intriguing world of psychology. The term imposter syndrome was first coined in 1978 by psychologists Dr. Pauline Clance and Dr. Suzanne Imes. They described it as an internal experience of intellectual phoniness in high-achieving individuals. Imposter syndrome is interestingly not a disease or an abnormality, but rather a response to certain situations and triggers. It's a complex interplay of various psychological factors, such as perfectionism, fear of failure, and even the fear of success. Now imagine being in a room full of accomplished individuals and feeling like you don't belong, like you're a fraud. That's the crux of imposter syndrome. It's this nagging feeling that you're not as competent as others perceive you to be, and any moment now, they'll discover the truth. Dr. Clance and Dr. Eames found that imposter syndrome is often linked with perfectionism. Those who strive for perfection and set excessively high standards for themselves are more likely to experience it. They constantly worry about failing and not meeting their own unrealistically high expectations. Upbringing plays a significant role too. Children praised excessively for their achievements may develop a fear of failure, believing they always need to excel to be valued. On the other hand, children who are criticized or downplayed may feel they're never good enough, no matter their successes. Personality traits come into play as well. For example, neuroticism, characterized by negative emotional states, has been found to be a strong predictor of imposter syndrome. People with this trait tend to doubt their abilities and worry excessively about potential failure. Imposter syndrome isn't just about feeling like a fraud. It's a complex interplay of various psychological factors. It's a silent battle fought within the mind, where the enemy is one's own perception of self-worth. But remember, understanding the enemy is the first step in conquering it. Imposter syndrome isn't just a term psychologists use. It's been a part of our popular culture. Take, for instance, the best-selling book Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg, the COO of Facebook. Sandberg candidly shares her own experiences with imposter syndrome, despite being one of the most influential women in tech. She admits that she often feels like a fraud and is just waiting for everyone around her to realize it. Another example comes from the world of publishing, with the renowned author Maya Angelou. Despite having written 11 books and receiving numerous awards, Angelou confessed in an interview that she had dreaded being found out. She feared that people would discover she had run a game on everybody, and they would take her books off the shelves. These examples are not exclusive to women either. Tom Hanks, one of the most respected actors in Hollywood, has spoken openly about his own struggles with imposter syndrome. He once remarked that no matter how high you are on the ladder, no matter how many awards you've won, you still think, I could be found out. Imposter syndrome is also prevalent in the music industry. Grammy Award-winning artist Adele once confessed, I'm scared of audiences. One show in Amsterdam, I was so nervous I escaped out the fire exit. Imposter syndrome isn't limited to the realms of the rich and famous either. It's also a recurring theme in fiction that resonates with readers. Characters from books like The Catcher in the Rye and The Bell Jar grapple with the feeling of being phonies, mirroring the real-life experiences of many. These examples illustrate how imposter syndrome permeates our popular culture. It affects people across a wide spectrum, from those who are just starting out to those who are at the peak of their careers. As you can see, imposter syndrome doesn't discriminate. It affects the successful and the struggling alike. Now that you know what imposter syndrome is and how prevalent it is, you might be wondering, how can one overcome it? Indeed, it's a valid question, and fortunately, there are practical methods backed by psychological research that can help us combat this phenomenon. Firstly, we need to recognize the pattern. Imposter syndrome thrives on our inability to internalize our achievements. We tend to attribute our successes to luck or timing rather than our abilities and hard work. So, when you catch yourself downplaying your achievements, stop and remind yourself of the effort you put into reaching your goals. Another essential strategy is to share your feelings with trusted friends or mentors. It's important to remember that everyone, at some point in their lives, experiences feelings of self-doubt or inadequacy. By sharing your feelings, you realize that you're not alone in this struggle, and that these feelings are a common human experience. Reframing the way we interpret failure and success is another powerful tool in our armory against imposter syndrome. Rather than viewing failure as proof of our inadequacy, we can choose to see it as an opportunity for growth and learning. Similarly, we can learn to accept success as a result of our efforts and abilities, rather than attributing it to external factors. At the heart of overcoming imposter syndrome lies self-compassion and self-awareness. Self-compassion involves being kind to ourselves when we fail or make mistakes, instead of being overly critical. Self-awareness, on the other hand, requires us to understand our strengths and weaknesses and to accept ourselves as we are, without constantly comparing ourselves to others. So, next time you find yourself feeling like an imposter, remember these strategies. Recognize the pattern, share your feelings, reframe your interpretations of success and failure, and practice self-compassion and self-awareness. Remember, feeling like an imposter doesn't make you one. With the right mindset and tools, you can conquer imposter syndrome and embrace your accomplishments wholeheartedly.